The world's largest electrical car maker is reportedly exploring an entry into Formula 1. BYD. $107 billion in revenue. 4.6 million cars sold in 2025. Larger than Honda by annual turnover. They've never competed in a top-level motorsport series. Bloomberg broke the story on the 10th of March 2026. 3 journalists, multiple sources. Their claim: BYD is examining an acquisition of an existing Formula 1 team. BYD declined to comment, but their executive vice president was in the paddock when the story dropped. This is everything we know. The Bloomberg report landed on the opening day of the 2026 Chinese Grand Prix weekend. The timing was not accidental. BYD's executive vice president, Stella Li, was in the Shanghai paddock. She had also been at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in December 2025. 2 paddock appearances. No announcement, no comment from the company. 6 days after Bloomberg, Chinese financial outlet Yikai Global published a separate report. Their source attributed statements to Stella Li directly describing the potential motorsport push as being in line with BYD's long-term technology-first strategy. German publication Automotor on Sport then added the detail that mattered most. BYD was looking specifically at Alpine and Aston Martin as acquisition targets. 3 credible outlets. Independently, within days of each other, with a senior BYD executive physically present at Formula 1 events. That is not a rumor. That's a pattern. What it is not yet is a deal. BYD is not a company looking to make a name for itself. They are already the dominant player in the world's largest automotive market. In 2025, they sold 4.6 million cars. They exported over 1 million of those, a number that has more than doubled in 2 years. Revenue hit $107 billion. They ranked 91st on the Fortune Global 500. The problem with dominating your home market is that growth eventually requires you to go somewhere new. Europe and North America. The markets where BYD's brand recognition is still building. The markets where name awareness translates directly into purchase consideration. Formula 1 reaches 1.5 billion people across 200 territories, broadcast in every significant automotive market on Earth every race weekend for 9 months of the year. The commercial logic is direct. BYD wants to sell cars in markets that currently associate Chinese EVs with low cost rather than high performance. A Formula 1 team changes that story overnight. They have already shown they understand performance marketing. In October 2025, BYD's Yangwang U9 Extreme set a certified Nürburgring time of 6 minutes 59 seconds, the fastest production EV ever recorded, the first Chinese supercar to break 7 minutes. Formula 1 is just that logic, at a completely different scale, and the 2026 regulations gave them a specific technical reason to look seriously. Formula 1 now runs a roughly 50-50 split between combustion and electric power. Half the performance of a modern Formula 1 car comes from electric components, batteries, motors, power management. That is BYD's entire business. No prospective new entrant has that depth of in-house capability in those exact areas. BYD, according to the reporting, wants to buy its way in, rather than build from scratch. 2 teams have been named. They're not equally realistic targets. Alpine's the most logical acquisition on paper. Bloomberg specifically noted BYD's interest in endurance racing alongside Formula 1. And Alpine have historically competed in both. But Alpine are withdrawing from the World Endurance Championship at the end of this season. Combined with the abandoned engine program for 2026, they now run customer Mercedes power units. The picture is of a team actively scaling back its motorsport footprint. A new owner would walk into a leaner operation, no engine commitment, no endurance program to fund. Whether that reads as an opportunity or a warning sign depends on your perspective. The investment fund Otro Capital holds a 24% stake. That stake's reportedly available. But Renault's chief executive, Luca De Meo, has been unambiguous. Alpine is not for sale. When a reported $1.2 billion bid came in, De Meo rejected it without serious consideration. He has described the Formula 1 program as essential for the Alpine brand's credibility. Reports also indicate both Toto Wolff and Christian Horner have expressed interest in the Otro Capital stake. BYD would not be the only party at the table. Aston Martin is the wilder story. Automotor on Sport reported that a takeover had been pitched to owner Lawrence Stroll, and that Stroll is approaching breaking point. The team's 2026 start was brutal. Honda engine vibration problems in the opening races. Stroll has invested far more than he originally planned, hundreds of millions over several years, and the team is not yet competitive. But the same publication that reported the pitch called an actual acquisition unrealistic. The team is valued at approximately $3 billion. Honda has just committed as a works engine partner, and Stroll has not indicated any intention to sell. The Aston Martin story reads more as an opportunistic approach than a genuine negotiation. Alpine is where the serious conversation, if there is one, is most likely happening. Here is what separates this from most manufacturer rumors. The FIA's own president has been publicly asking for this to happen. Mohammed Ben Sulayem told Le Figaro that the next step after the United States, meaning General Motors and Cadillac, is a Chinese manufacturer. He described it as his dream for the last 2 years. He went further with Racing News 365. If there is a Chinese bid, Formula One management will agree to it, because it is about sustaining the business. That is the FIA president speaking on behalf of FOM's likely position, in public, without any formal application submitted. The South China Morning Post reported that Ben Sulayem confirmed talks with a Chinese manufacturer were ongoing for a potential 12th team. He did not name BYD. He did not need to. Formula One's chief executive, Stefano Domenicali, has pointed to a Chinese fanbase now exceeding 200 million people. The 2026 Chinese Grand Prix drew 230,000 spectators over 3 days. Ticket revenue up more than 30% year-on-year. The Shanghai contract runs through 2030. This sport is building a long-term relationship with China. A Chinese constructor on the grid is the final piece of that strategy, and the people running the sport are not being subtle about wanting it. This is where the story gets significantly harder, because we have seen this before very recently. Andretti, backed by General Motors with full FIA approval, had their entry blocked by Formula One management in January 2024. The stated reason: they would not add sufficient value to the sport. The real conversation was money. When a new team enters Formula One, the prize fund gets divided one more way. 11 teams instead of 10, 12 instead of 11. Every existing team takes a smaller slice. For a new entrant to be welcome, they need to grow the total pie so significantly that every existing team's slice stays the same size, or gets larger, even after the division. That means bringing in so much additional commercial value, new markets, new broadcasters, new sponsors, new eyeballs, that the net effect is positive for everyone already in the room. Andretti argued they would do that. The existing teams disagreed. It took nearly 3 years, $450 million in anti-dilution fees paid to those same teams, sustained political pressure, and ultimately a rebrand to Cadillac before they got on the grid. And Cadillac were American, in a sport currently dominated by American investment, American broadcasters, and American race calendar slots. They had every commercial argument working in their favor. It was still that hard. BYD's commercial argument is actually stronger in one specific way. China is the world's largest automotive market, 200 million Formula One fans, a sold-out Grand Prix, a fanbase growing faster than any other territory in the sport. A Chinese constructor on the grid is not a marginal addition to that story. The broadcast deals, the sponsorship conversations, the merchandise sales, all of it changes with a Chinese team racing in China. That is the commercial case, and it is a strong one. There is a second layer worth flagging, and this is speculative, but it is something to watch. Formula One has significant American investment, American broadcasters, and races on American soil 3 times a year. A Chinese manufacturer advertising cars that directly compete with American products on American tracks in front of a global audience. That is a politically uncomfortable picture for some stakeholders in this sport. Whether that ever becomes a formal obstacle is impossible to say right now. But it is a dynamic that did not exist when Cadillac applied, and it is not nothing. Cadillac had one version of this problem. BYD would face a significantly more complicated version of it. There are 3 realistic routes into Formula One for BYD. Route 1, acquisition. This is what Bloomberg reported as BYD's preference. It is how Audi entered. They purchased Sauber, an existing constructor with a grid entry already in place, for a reported 600 million euros. Buying an existing team bypasses the anti-dilution fee. It inherits infrastructure, personnel, and a Concord Agreement signature that grants access to commercial revenue. it also sidesteps the FOM approval process that blocked Andretti. The difficulty is valuation. Forbes valued the average Formula One team at over $2 billion in 2025. Alpine reportedly rejected a $1.2 billion approach without serious discussion. Finding a willing seller at a price that makes commercial sense is not straightforward. Route 2. New entry as a 12th team. Submit an expression of interest. Survive FOM's commercial assessment, the same process that blocked Andretti in January 2024. Pay an anti-dilution fee. Cadillac paid $450 million shared among the existing 10 teams, signed the Concord Agreement, build everything from scratch. Route 3. Sponsorship or technical partnership. Title sponsorship of a midfield team runs at $50 million or more per season. A technical partnership, similar to what Toyota currently has with Haas, provides design and manufacturing support without the cost of full ownership. These options place BYD's name on the grid without the operational complexity. But a sponsorship arrangement is not the same as a Chinese team in Formula One. The distinction matters, commercially, politically, and in terms of what the story actually is. BYD has the financial scale to make this work. $107 billion in revenue, a $725 million motorsport infrastructure investment already committed domestically. They are not a company that would struggle to fund a Formula One program. The next 2 years will determine whether Formula One gets its first Chinese constructor in 76 years of the sport, or whether the most commercially important emerging market in the sport remains represented only in the grandstands.